Hi, everybody. I think I'm live, and I hope that you can see and hear me. If you're my husband or my parents watching, how about you text me and let me know that you can actually see and hear me? Because this is the first ever Upward Book Club, so I don't really know what I'm doing, and there was really no way to test this out that I know of, and there's a little bit of a delay on my end, but that might not be able to be helped. So now it's playing. Okay, so I'm trying to, I think there's going to be a long pause because I'm trying to figure this out. Sorry, everybody. I've got all of my notifications turned on because I would love for you to tweet any questions that you might have. And I would love for you to email me any questions that you have, or you can text me too, because my phone number is pretty public, actually. So I hope that this is working. And I'm just going to kind of go through some of the oh, thank you for tweeting me that. It's working. That makes me feel a lot better. Okay. I'm sorry. This is new. This is all new to me. So I just wanted to welcome everybody to the book club. I hope that if you haven't had a chance to read Ever Upward, that you will order and enjoy it and love it. Chad just texted me and said that I am moving. I don't know what that means. So so weird. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep talking because I think when I stop talking, it actually plays back to me what I'm saying. So I really don't need to hear my voice. It's torture to hear your own voice. That's why when I do the live television spots on Great Day, I will totally admit, I just play the first minute or so to see how my hair looks and see how my outfit is, and then I cannot stand to watch myself. So we had friends that used to torture me by making me listen to it. Chad just now texted me that I am moving on screen, but that's it. He did not tell me whether or not that you can hear me speak, but I just got tweeted that you can hear me speak. So I'm just going to keep going and pretend like this is working. So we did definitely get a couple questions come in about the book club. So I'm really excited about this book club. What we're going to do is I'm going to talk about chapters 1 through 4 this week. And then next week, I'm going to talk about the rest of the book. And then we're going to skip a week. And then I'm going to repeat it just in case somebody missed it, basically. So really, no question is off limits in reality. You can tweet or text or email me whatever question you want, and if I feel comfortable answering it, I will answer it here live on air. So I look a little bit tired and cold because I am actually in Boulder, Colorado, which was a really unexpected trip for a really exciting opportunity that I'm going to write about in the future. So I hope that the connection is okay, because I'm in a hotel room in very, very snowy Boulder, doing the book club. So I'm doing some really exciting things here that I can't wait to share with you guys, and I hope that some of it really takes off after this. So getting back to book club, I oftentimes get asked, I've been asked a lot since I've been in here in Boulder, how long did it take you to write the book? So I actually write a little bit about this in the sequel to Ever Upward, which I have started to write. It honestly probably took me about 9 months to a year to write Ever Upward, and in classic Justine style, because I do everything in my life really fast and I break shit all the time. Oh yeah, disclaimer, there probably will be curse words in this live on air YouTube video, so I'm just warning you. I had about the first 3 chapters of this book written when I spilt water on my computer, and no, I did not have it backed up. And so I had to start over. I probably started trying to get the book published, and I sent off query letters, which is basically the sales pitch to agents and publishers, for about a year. I just got tweeted, "You say no question is off limits." She just sent me a question. I'll answer, I promise. I sent off my first query letter and proposal to agents and publishers on what would have been my first Mother's Day. And about a year later is when I chose Morgan James Publishing to publish the book. And it was a year spent of finishing the book, polishing the book, editing the book, and begging over 230 agents and publishers to publish me. I still honestly get rejection letters every week. But I went about it my own way and chose Morgan James. Another common question that I get a lot is, what does the book cover actually mean? So I always knew that a monarch butterfly was supposed to be on the cover. I've loved butterflies since forever. When I was 19, I got my first butterfly tattoo. Butterflies mean rebirth and emerging, which is exactly what this journey has been about for me. And so this is actually the second book cover. I write the story in the sequel of Ever Upward also. My book cover designer and I, she designed a book cover that was phenomenal, but the photographer would not release the image to us. And so we had to start from square one. And it was a lot of back and forth, but the book cover at this point is the monarch butterfly. Orange is one of my power colors. I love orange. And again, the monarch means emerge and rebirth. And at first we found a shattered butterfly, but I didn't really love it because my story is not broken. Our stories are not broken. We are not broken because we have gone through the infertility journey. And so I had her change the broken pieces to puzzle pieces, because some of you might have read my puzzle piece on my blog. And that didn't quite work. And then my friend Kelly Tipton, I'm going to drop her name because she loves riding the coattails of her famous friend. I'm totally not famous, but that's what she always says. She texted me and she's like, Justine, it's too lonely. A big part of your story is about not doing this on our own, which it is. I don't think that we can do this journey by ourselves at all. It's a huge message of Ever Upward. And that's when it clicked to me that I needed the broken pieces of the butterfly to actually be other monarchs. And that's when Kristen, my book cover designer, took several stock images of monarchs and shifted them and rotated them and created the Breakaway Butterfly. So the Breakaway Butterfly is meant to be that, one, you can't really tell if they're flying away or into. In reality, I have birthed Ever Upward, and that's what the monarch butterfly means on the cover. The other favorite part of the cover for me, which a lot of people I don't even think notice, is the background text. which I've started to write a lot more in some of my writing. It just means it's in the font that I really love, and it just says to stop proving it, to truly own it, to fight for it, to break the silence, to embrace it all, living wholeheartedly brave. This is my story. This is our story. This is ever upward. So that's written in the background. So that's the book cover. I had someone email or tweet me this question: what does the infertility journey really take? Someone messaged me on Twitter and said that they had done infertility treatments for 10 years and that people don't really understand what goes into it. Infertility, even though it's one of the most, in reality, common journeys, because 1 in 8 couples struggles to conceive, 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in miscarriage, and too many pregnancies end in a stillborn. And so this is a journey that too many of us know, but it goes unspoken and misunderstood and invalidated in our culture. And so what does it really take to go through the infertility journey? The infertility journey will change your life forever. That's what I'm learning through this ever upward journey and through working with people going through infertility now, as I have tried to figure out what the heck I'm doing afterwards, I guess. The infertility journey is truly lifelong losses. That's why that's in my subtitle. I'm not just fixed because I wrote this book. This is not over because this book has been published. This is lifelong. I see 3 everywhere I go, and those losses are forever. But I get to choose what I do with those losses, which is the brand, which is the many books that I have in me, and this, which is, I hope, is educating. The infertility journey will be one that will make you a better, stronger, more compassionate person if you allow it to. And I think that's where the work comes in. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of us are doing the work, which is what I'm trying to do by publishing this book and making people talk about it. I had someone email me the question of what boundaries do you need to set from the beginning of the journey? I think a lot of this in the journey of infertility is literally asking for what you want and need. This includes your medical team, all your doctors, all your nurses, asking for what you want and need. This includes your partner or spouse. And this includes our family and loved ones, especially those that you're going to tell, which I write in the book that we were really, really open about our journey, which I think is twofold. It was incredible because we had more people hoping for us and praying for us and just standing by our side. It was also damn near impossible when you had to send that text message or call them with the news that the pregnancy did not take. That hurt. But it also meant I had more people supporting me. But I had to it was my job to set the boundaries. It was my job to ask for what I wanted and needed from my loved ones, from my medical team, from everybody. We have to sometimes give them the words. And I think that's really important in the infertility journey. If your family members are asking you in a way that is hurtful, then give them the words of how to ask you. If you don't want them to ask them not to ask, and ask them to trust you that you'll give them the update. Use your words, set the boundaries early, and realize that just because you ask for it doesn't mean that you're going to get it. But at least I know I asked. And that you will have to continue to set the boundaries over and over and over. And that sometimes if people continue to violate those boundaries, then you do have to in some ways protect yourself, especially when it comes to the infertility journey, is what I'm finding. But what I can promise you is that no one will be able to have the compassion and the understanding that I think we all need to survive this journey if you are not talking about it. You don't have to be the poster child for infertility. You don't have to publish the book. You don't even have to write the blog. But if you want support and understanding and compassion, you need to be able to ask for what you want and need. You need to be able to educate people on how difficult this journey is and what you need from them. Someone emailed me about surrogacy suggestions. I don't know if I'm the right person, because we started exploring surrogacy because it had started to get some attention in the media, and I just literally put an ad on Surromom Online, I believe was the website, and I was inundated with messages like I write about in Ever Upward. And the biggest piece of advice that I can give in regards to the surrogacy journey would be follow your gut. I pretty much knew right away if they were not the right fit for us. It's also pretty much set up so that you cannot go further into the journey if they're not the right fit for you, because you have to answer some pretty difficult questions, which I write about in Ever Upward. I do think surrogacy presents amazing options for couples to make families. It's obviously been in the media a lot in the last year, some negative parts in the media especially, which is really disheartening, I think, in reality, because I think it could be incredible for a lot of families. But I do think that we need to talk about all of the complicated issues that come with surrogacy. It's hard. It's a hard journey. It's hard to trust somebody else with your baby. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to figure out what this relationship looks like long term, whether or not you get the child. The next question, because I have some people tweeting in questions, which I freaking love. Please tweet me. I'm still figuring out Twitter, believe it or not. The why not just adopt question. So this was actually, my friend Kaylee tweeted this to me because she did a presentation today, in which case the students that she was presenting to obviously said, well, you can't have kids, why not just adopt? And this question is at the top of the back cover of the book, because it is the most common response that you get from people. Well, why don't you just adopt? Well, it's just not that easy. And it takes me a lot of courage to stand publicly and say that adoption is not right for my family than it would be for me to not follow my truth and adopt anyways because that's socially acceptable or because it's expected or whatever else. We have to talk about the difficulties of this journey. We have to talk about how hard it is to make a family. And that includes that adoption is not always a fairy tale ending, and that it's an incredible, incredible thing for many, many families, many. And like my therapist says, Shelly, I remember in the early part of my therapy with Shelly, she was like, I just want you to realize that adoption's not black and white. It's not a black and white decision. Meaning that, like, I can know that for Chad and I, adoption is not for us, but in reality, we have no idea what life has in store for us, because you don't. I don't know if someone will end up on my doorstep and say, I want to stay with you guys for a while. I don't know if the children that we are guardians to will need us in the future. So she's right. I don't know what the future holds. But what I know is that we know it's not our path to sign up for adoption. And so when you reply to me or try to fix it by saying, why don't you just adopt? It feels invalidating and minimizing and it hurts. But I also know it comes from a place of love because you want me to be a mom. But it's just not that simple. So that's part of the education that we have to do, basically, in this journey, I think. Another question that I had come in was, what do you mean by chosen family? You don't get to pick your family. We've all heard that saying. Our chosen family and our chosen children are those people that are biased no matter what, even though they're not obligated to be because they're blood, if that makes sense. My chosen family includes my blood family. It includes Devin and Jocelyn, my niece and nephew. But my chosen family are those people that you know will be there no matter what. That you know they will do the work to try to get you at the end of the day. They're the people that you help. They're the people that you love and have fun with. And so I think that's our chosen family, are our friends and our family that we choose to be involved with. Our chosen children are the kids that I hope will allow me to be in their lives for the long haul. And I realize that I will not always be cool Aunt Justine, and that eventually they'll turn into teenagers that they don't want to hang out with me. But I hope that they will know that they can come to me and I can provide them with something that's different outside of their parental relationship. So that's what I mean by my chosen children. I don't get to parent my own children on this earth. So I choose to find parenting in other ways. And that includes my chosen children. Another question that was tweeted was the difference between a husband and a wife's journey on this. I think I write about this in the book a little bit. I know I've talked about it a little bit. I think I did a post on Father's Day about it. But I think a big part of the gender differences between, or the gender difference of infertility would be that, I'm totally speaking for Chad at this point, but I do think that he felt like he had to hold his shit together because I was losing it. And on the other side of that, or after a bit of the losses had passed, I had to realize that he had his own grief process, and that, I mean, I couldn't have changed it in the moment, but your grief process will not look the same. And that's okay. I think where we get into trouble is where we start to turn away from one another and not towards one another during the journey. And we don't realize that it's not going to match up. The way he grieves it is different than the way I grieve it. And we have to honor how we both grieve this process, grieve each loss, cope with every fucking 2-week wait that we have to go through. We're wired so differently. You have to respect those differences, but figure out how to have empathy for one another and figure out how to turn towards one another and not away from one another. That's the difference between of the genders in this journey, I think. And I think that counts for any kind of couple going through the infertility journey or the difficulty of making a family. It's not just about freaking infertility. It's just how hard it is to make a family in today's age. Whether or not that means you got pregnant unexpectedly and therefore you did not enjoy your pregnancy as much as you could have, or that you really wanted the girl but you got all boys, or you've had several miscarriages, or your kids are years apart, or you can't have kids without infertility treatments. It's just really hard to make a family. And the differences between men and women on that journey are pretty significant. And so we have to try to understand how differently we process that, I think, and have compassion for one another. Let's see. The next question. This one was tweeted to me, which I love, or it was emailed to me. I love this question. Actually, I think I'll just read you part of the email because it was just incredible. So she says, you're so open about your struggles with infertility, but so many women aren't. What would you say to them to encourage them to start telling their stories? And how would you say your openness has personally benefited you? I'm a pretty open person. Some people might consider me too open. What I am learning is that silence will kill us. Silence makes us slowly die. And it is what I am seeing so much working with people going through this journey. Silence makes us make choices that we would never make otherwise. Silence makes us cynical and bitter. And silence makes us live from a place of fear and not love. And so, like I said before, you don't have to publish the book. You don't even have to write the blog. You don't have to wear the damn t-shirt that says you're struggling with anxiety or depression or infertility. You do have to talk about it. And you have to talk about it with more than just your partner or one single person, because what happens if that one single person goes away for whatever reason? We must talk about this journey, the journey through heartache, the journey through loss or trauma or tragedy, especially the journey of infertility. And I think that is because not being able to have children easily already makes us feel damaged and alone and live in complete shame. If I try to do that shit all by myself, I'm totally screwed. When I speak these words out loud, they lose some power, and only within that will I be able to find my truth and my light. And that's what I believe. I obviously I'm biased. I'm a therapist, for God's sakes, and I'm a therapist that sees a therapist. So I do think that seeking professional help through this journey works. Especially someone who specializes in it, especially someone who has maybe been through it. We have to speak this stuff out loud. A lot of the time, like one of my number one recommendations with clients is to journal, which they hate. I get so many groans and moans and rolled eyes in my office when I tell people to journal. But I ask you to journal because when you get stuff out of your head, it doesn't solidify it. It doesn't make it a permanent part of who you are. It makes it less powerful. When you talk about the shame, the sadness, the loss, the disappointment, the 2-week waits, the anger, the bitterness, all of it through the infertility journey, when you talk about it, it can't consume you, which means it can't control you. So that's why I encourage people to speak out. That's why I'm advocating so much about talking about infertility. Because I think if we don't talk about it, we completely lose ourselves to it. And if we lose ourselves to this journey, if it does work for you and you do get to be a mom or dad through the infertility journey and you have not done this work, it will haunt you forever. And if you don't get the kids, like I haven't, you don't find your happy ending, I guess. And I haven't been through what I have been through to be sad, angry, and bitter. Because that would just be terrible. I don't think that's why we have to go through what we've gone through, I guess. Let's see. Another question. The controversial one. Child-free versus childless. Technically, I think by technical definition, I'm childless. I wanted kids, but I can't have kids, and I'm not choosing adoption, which means I'm childless. I don't like the word childless. I've written about this. HuffPost ran it. I ran it on the blog. And the first subtitle of the book was child-free. I like child-free because I'm not less of a person or less of a woman because I can't be a mother. But I totally get that the child-free community gets pretty pissed off at me when I use the term child-free. So, okay, I will use the term child-free, not by choice. But better yet, I'm child-full. I guess what I don't like about childless is that I just don't think it encompasses who I am or the recovery that I've worked on throughout this journey. And I do think that there is a level of acceptance. We are not choosing to adopt, which means we are not going to have kids. And so there is this element of acceptance in this journey that is child-free. And that does come with some perks. I get to watch a marathon of Orange is the New Black on Sundays because I don't have kids to take care of. We will eventually get to travel more because we don't have kids. There is some freedom in that part. And I think part of this journey, even though I really wanted children and I will forever wanted to have been a mother, that part of the journey for me has been to move more towards child-free. But I get that that term is maybe taken. I get that. So I'm calling it child-full because I love kids. And I have a toy room in my house, and we bought the house with the pool, like I write about in the book, because one, I didn't want to be left out. And I wanted to make sure that all of our friends and their kids would want to come over and hang out with us. And what better way than to have a pool? I'm child-full because I choose to take an active role in all of our chosen children's lives. And that includes going to the plays and the games and the piano recitals and things like that. I'm child-full because I volunteer with kids, but I also get the perks of being child-free. So that's why I describe it as child-full versus child-free or childless. Okay, let's see. I'm going to check my Twitter here to see what other questions we might have. Okay, so I love this. No questions is off limits, I say. Do you think most infertility patients are the same way? It's question number one. So many people are afraid to approach their friends struggling with infertility because they're afraid to ask. Infertility patients are not all the same. Our stories are so different. I think I wrote an old post about that. We're so different, but it really, the core of it, I think, is the same. It's about wanting something that you necessarily can't have. It's about loss and anger and sadness. I think bottom line, it's the same because it's all universal emotions that we all feel at some point in our lives, no matter how you get to them. We all feel sadness and struggle and disappointment and anger and loss and tragedy and trauma. So there's not ever a one size fits all for infertility, ever, for goodness sakes, at that point. But underneath it all is the same. And that's the difference between sympathy and empathy. And I know I've spoken about that a lot, and I've written about that a lot. And a lot of that comes from my training with Brené Brown in the Daring Way curriculum. So kind of give you 101 education about that. So sympathy is, I feel for you. Empathy is, I feel with you. And I think, like she says, so many people are afraid to approach their friends struggling with infertility because they're afraid to ask. I think a lot of that is because, one, we don't want to make anyone feel sad or anything like that. And so like I think we're conditioned to think that we want sympathy. We're also totally conditioned to give it. But when you feel sorry for me, God, I'm in that loss all by myself. When you pity me, I'm really in it by myself. I'd rather have you have empathy for me and just look at me and say, man, that sucks. I think that people are afraid to talk to their friends going through infertility, number one, because we're not talking about it. I think that's the number one reason why people aren't asking you about it, because you're not talking about it. But I also think the other part is you just don't know what to say. And so I think there's two parts to that. One, it's those of us going through the journey, again, giving our loved ones the script, asking them to ask us about it. But I think two, for our loved ones and family, it's to check your intention when you ask us about it. It's that whole fertility compassion thing that I've talked about and written about, that when you ask me, well, when are you going to have kids? Or don't you want kids? Or didn't you want the girl? Or you don't want them too far apart? When it's worded in a certain way and with a certain tone, it feels hurtful and cutting and just nosy. As someone who has done this work, I know that those questions mostly come out of just curiosity and love. But for those of you that are seeking to support someone going through this journey, you just check your intention. What's going on? Are you okay? You also maybe ask people like, what do you want and need from me? How do you want me to ask about it? Because I want to ask about it, but I don't want to hurt you or something like that. And so like, bottom line, it is just compassion and understanding. You don't, maybe it's not even understanding. You don't have to completely get what I am going through or what I have gone through to respect it and have compassion for it and empathy. So that comes back to that empathy and sympathy component. I just need you to identify with the emotion underneath it. That's what we talk about in the Daring Way. Because sadness and disappointment and anger, we all know what that shit feels like, no matter what caused it. That's what I need you to identify with. That's where empathy is born. If that makes sense. I hope I answered your question. Let's see. Because I think technically that's all my questions. So if any of you have questions, email me or text them to me as I'm looking at my phone and everything. Chad sent me a good job explaining that answer. I don't know which one he meant, but thanks, babe. The good part of me doing this out of town is you don't have to listen to my dog's bark. Just the siren going off. Okay, let's check Facebook and just make sure none of you asked any questions on there. I don't think so. Any other questions? I think I activated the live question and answer thing on Google+. I don't know how that works, to be honest, but I don't think any of you answered anything or asked anything on there. And I don't have any other tweets or emails. So until I get another tweet or email, I'm just going to kind of fill you in on, I guess, kind of what's coming up for Ever Upward and everything. So next Thursday night, I will talk about the second half of the book. So if you have questions, please email me or tweet those to me. So the second half of the book would be Evolving Relationships, is chapter 5, and chapter 6 is all about reigniting the spark, which is marriage and our date ideas. And chapter 7 is obviously about Mason House. People usually have a lot of questions about that because Mason House was pretty epic. And then chapter 8's Emerging Women, and just how I kind of, I guess, figured out how to own all of this. And and then the epilogue, obviously. So next Thursday, we'll talk about the second half of the book. And then we skip a week, I believe, and then we kind of do it all over. So it might just kind of be a repeat, or if I get new questions and tweets about the first half of the book, I'll answer those. The other stuff that we have coming up is, obviously, I have a lot of guest blogs. So I have guest blogs scheduled for every week until the April 7th launch of Ever Upward, which I'm really excited because I have a lot of amazing friends in the blogging world that I'm so thankful for. It's a perfect example of how so different we are versus how very universal all of this is in the journey. All of my blogging friends, we're all in so many different places in this journey, and yet like our stories are so much the same. And so I will have a guest blog every week before or until April 7th. And in reality, hopefully maybe I'll have guest blogs thereafter too. So we have that coming up. And then April 11th or April 7th, obviously, is the bookstore launch of Ever Upward. So whatever your favorite bookstore is, make sure to please go and purchase Ever Upward. I think right now I'm technically holding 2 of the top 20 spots on Amazon, which is incredible. I have 25 reviews on Amazon right now. If you have not done a review on Ever Upward, I would really, really appreciate one. Just as of right now, make sure to click the Kindle version of the book, and then you'll be allowed to do a review. So obviously, after April 7th, you'll be able to do a review on Ever Upward, on whatever version of it. Let's see, April 11th is the first bookstore signing at Barnes & Noble, West County in St. Louis, which I'm pretty excited about. I'm really, really excited about that. And oh my gosh, my dad is literally texting me a lot. Who was your photographer? There is a photograph on the back of the book, and he is credited on the copyright page. My dad took that photo of my hands, and then Kristen, my book cover designer, photoshopped it to add the butterflies and all of that stuff. So Brian Brooks, my father, is the photographer, and he's like sending me all of these like emoticons and everything. He's like very excited that I just gave him a shout out. He thinks he should get some royalties of the book, in which case right now there is no royalties of the book. So maybe one day when the sequel makes money, I will give you a check, Dad. I don't know what else is coming up. What else is coming up? We've got Infertility Awareness Week is obviously like April 20th, I believe. It's that week of April 20th. I'm going to say that I will be on national television talking about Ever Upward because I'm just going to put it out into the universe. So you want to tweet the Today Show or Good Morning America or the doctors or The View or whatever else and let them know that I have a message to share, please do that, because I could use some backup, because I have no idea what I am doing in regards to PR and marketing. I'm a therapist and a first-time author, so I could use some backup. I think that's it. If no one else has any questions that you're not going to tweet me or email me, I think that's it. What I am learning here in Boulder this week is that I'm going to get out of my own way and change this conversation around infertility, but in reality, just the conversation around struggle. Because we all have our own stuff. We all have struggle. We all have trauma, loss, and tragedy in our lives. But we get to figure out what we want to do with it. We get to choose how we change our lives. And I guess that's what I want to give you permission to do. So hopefully this wasn't terrible. Hopefully I didn't just ramble too much, because it's kind of been a long 2 days of training. I still got another one of training, but I'm really excited that you tuned in, and please don't hesitate to ask any questions. And I'll be here again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And another text just came through. Let's just make sure it's probably just my dad. And I will see you guys next week at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Email me or tweet me or read the blog or whatever else. And rise ever upward. Have a good night.